Yes? No? Okay. So yeah, I think good morning all of you, and I would really like to thank QAI for giving me this honor to be the keynote speaker here today. So maybe I'll just quickly start with a video and then we'll get moving. The video and we will move directly to the presentation. So the video was basically one of the most popular ads for SAP where we are talking about how SAP is changing the world. But I think that's something that I will anyways be talking about going ahead in the presentation as well. So as you see, the title is pretty heavy. But what I would like to do, because I have been on the other side multiple times, I would try not to use a lot of jargons. I would try not to give a lot of gyan, but I would try to talk about things which most of you can relate to, so that it's probably more useful for you. So that would be my intention. I would start by giving a very short overview of SAP. So as a few of you would know, so basically our purpose is to really help the world run better. And I think the purpose, or if you see the promise or the mission, I think it has evolved over the years. So I've been with SAP for like close to 17 years now, and I think finally we have a mission or a promise which we can say is really something which we can all relate to and which we can all be proud about. About the company, I think what we are trying to influence is the economy of the world. We are trying to influence the society at large and also the environment. So I think those are the three aspects which we are trying to kind of really touch upon and work with. In terms of what we do, I think what we have over the last 30, 40 years is a lot of process expertise. We have a lot of industry experience because we have products which are across 25 industries. We have a huge ecosystem. So as you see, I mean, in terms of course, SAP by itself, but we also have around 16,000 plus companies which are SAP partners. And we have really a huge global reach where we have close to 355,000 customers, and we have a presence or a footprint in 180 countries. So that's the kind of magnitude that we are really talking about. If I talk about the location or where we all are, so I mean, at this point of time, I would say that we are spread all across the globe. So we have 20 labs around the globe. I mean, the ones in blue are the ones which are probably the major locations, so which includes Germany, China, India, and US. Coming to the SAP presence in India, I think that itself, I mean, if you really look at it, is really something which, again, I mean, we take a lot of pride in. If you look at the industries or the companies where we are, I think what we can specifically talk about or maybe mention or highlight is our presence with railways, utilities, security. I think one of, or the three of the most, or the key topics or key industries for the government today. And I mean, if you look at it in terms of customers, so more than 9,000 customers, and out of the top 50 companies, 45 of them run on SAP. So that's our presence in India. And very quickly about SAP Labs India. So in the last Great Place to Work survey, we were ranked #1 as a company, I think, which is a great honor again. And we just recently completed 30 years. Is it 30? No, 20 years, yeah. 20 years for SAP Labs in Bangalore. We had a huge celebration last week. And in terms of the numbers or in terms of our presence, we are the second largest lab across the world after Germany. So it's a lot of topics are driven out of India, driven out of Bangalore, and I think it's a fantastic place, I would say. Now coming to really the ambition or the journey for us, I would say in the last few years, and I think that's where most of you would also be interested in terms of how we are trying to transform. I would still not say that we have transformed, but how we are in the process of that transformation, what all it has taken us, and what has been our experience over this journey, and probably I'll also end a little bit with the learnings in the way as well. So, I mean, if we look at the ambition that we have, so it's to be the cloud company powered by SAP HANA. So I guess most of you or a lot of you would be aware of SAP HANA, which is our in-memory database. I mean, after the time that HANA had come, I think it was again one of the most disruptive things that happened in the market. And I think that's one of the things which really changed the way things were perceived earlier and the way that they are run now. If you look at our journey across the years, so I mean, we started in 70s with the R2, which was based on the mainframe. Then we moved to R3, EHP, Suite on HANA, Fury, Simplified Suite, and finally to S4 HANA Cloud. I think S4 HANA Cloud is something which has been there from the last couple of years, and I think it's one of the most breakthrough products that we have come up with. And slowly, I mean, since it's a breakthrough product, since it's something which is new for everyone, I think it's taken some time to really get itself established. But I think in the recent surveys that we have had with the customers, I think it's now slowly taking over or already kind of getting more traction than the business suite that we had in place. So I think which is great for us. And of course, along with S4 HANA, the movement that we are trying to do, or I would say the most bold or ambitious thing that we are thinking of, is to have intelligent ERP on cloud. So I mean, if we probably would have mentioned this maybe a couple of years back, I think nobody would really have believed that it is possible to have ERP on cloud, because I mean of the fact that it has so many modules, it's really so heavy. So can it really be hosted on a cloud? But that's what our journey has been, and I would say that the progress so far has been pretty good as well. If you look at in terms of what is it that we are looking at, so the idea is that I mean, the different products that we have, how can they be integrated, and integrated in a way that for the customers it's an overall a seamless kind of a thing. Then in terms of lines of businesses, what is it that we can do which can cater to different lines of business? So some things which are specific to those lines of businesses, how can they be managed, how can they be done in a way that it's really useful and suitable for them. And as I said, I mean, the idea is to move the intelligent enterprise in cloud. If you look at the 2020 ambition of SAP, so the wish or what we are really hoping and wanting to be is to have cloud subscriptions revenue worth 8 billion plus, which is of course something which is ambitious, but we are also pretty hopeful that we will be able to achieve this. Now coming to this transformation journey. So I mean, when we decided to go this way, when we decided, because we were sitting really comfortably at the top of ERP, at the top, I mean, and the customers on-prem, and there was not really a very immediate urgent need to kind of move or make this move to go to cloud, which was completely new for us at that point of time. I mean, it was something which the whole organization was not at that time really ready with. But we decided to embark this journey, and what we try to focus in this transformation are these 4 parameters. Again, nothing which is alien to all of you, so but the process, the product, the innovation, and of course in the center were or still are the people of the organization. So coming to the details, so the transformation for anything starts with the people, as you all would also agree. What was important was to establish a culture, because as you know, I mean, most of the people in SAP or who have been there for long enough, I mean, there is a certain mindset that we all have, that includes me as well. And that mindset to kind of really change is not an easy job. So what we did is, I mean, over a period of few years, which is still going on, so we had a lot of experiential workshops where we tried to educate our people on 2 different things. One was in terms of technologies. So because as you know, traditionally, I mean, SAP is, I mean, the software is ABAP based, and moving to cloud was a completely different ball game. And for that, there was a lot of education that was needed, there was a lot of trainings which were needed for the people, I mean upskilling that was needed, so that was one part. But I think even more important or even more difficult was the other part which I was talking about, which is a mindset change. A change in thought process, a change in how things used to work traditionally in on-prem versus how things will work now in cloud. And I think I would still say at this point of time that we are not completely there. It's not as if that, I mean, things have changed or most of the people are already completely thinking in that direction. No, I would not say, but what I would still say is that we are in the process. I mean, the journey has begun. I think we are somewhere in the middle. A lot of the people have probably started going in that direction, and the others hopefully will follow suit. Maybe also talking a little bit in terms of transformation for, so I mean, as you all know, and I think this is nothing again new for all of you, as you're all also aware. I think what has changed in the last few years is the expectations from the customer. So as we know, I mean, more and more that people have been used to internet and the technologies, I think that's what their expectation is. So I mean, if you would have seen possibly, I mean, a few years back, or those of you who are familiar with SAP and might have seen the SAP GUI before, at this point of time when everyone, I mean, all of us are used to see, I mean, such beautiful screens, I think those things are probably no longer expected, no longer probably they are something which customers would really want. So I think, so accordingly the expectations have changed. Also the expectations, things like pay for use. So I do not want to pay for the whole bunch of things where I would probably use only a little bit of that. So and the market trends, as you all know, I think in terms of the intelligent technologies which are there, in terms of move to cloud. So I think there is a lot of change which has happened and which we have to kind of cater for, and the motivation for SAP. So as I said, I think sitting smugly on the on-prem world and being at the top was not good enough, and that's where we wanted to kind of win the market in a game which was probably at that time a little new for us, but that was the idea. The cloud essentials, again, I think this is something which was a different game altogether. I think in cloud, the one thing or one of the things which are very, very important is how do you price things? How do you kind of put a price? How do you gain operating profit out of it? And how do you let the customers be hooked on to this? So I mean, I think those are the things, and the things like DevOps, things like Agile, I mean, all those things would become even more important being a part of this. And innovation in the cloud world was again, I mean, very special because as you know, I mean, in the on-prem world, I mean, typically the patches that we release, typically the innovations that we do, I mean, the life cycle of that used to be almost a year that we kind of worked on. But with cloud, with the idea of, I mean, releases which have much shorter cycle, where we are into continuous innovation and continuous delivery, I think it's a completely different ball game and a completely different thought process for the development teams as well. Because I mean, earlier they used to think big. They used to think that maybe I need to develop this whole thing within the next year or something. Now, that does not make sense. We have to think of what is it that we can deliver quarter on quarter. Maybe we start small, then we start making it bigger and things like that. But that's the innovation in the cloud world, which is now changing things drastically. And I think with all this, what comes into picture is the quality mindset. I mean, having personally being a part of this as well, I mean, I would say in the last few years, the importance of quality in the cloud world is becoming more and more and more and more important. I mean, just to give you a couple of maybe examples, or just to kind of talk to you about, I mean, some experiences. So whenever we meet customers in this day and age, whenever we talk to them about S/4HANA Cloud, or what is it that they like, what is it that they don't like, interestingly, there are hardly any comments or any feedback or any asks for features, yeah, which is a completely different world to what it was when we used to talk to the on-prem customers. Now, I mean, the only thing that they talk about is that, I mean, something is not working, or I mean, in terms of upgrades, in terms of quality of things, in terms of those things. So I think which is, the focus has completely shifted, and that's where I think people in this room, people, I mean, all of us as a community gain that much more significance, because I think maybe in on-prem world, the way things used to work was that there was a lot of customization possible, there was a lot of configuration possible, people had their big teams kind of sitting, writing their own custom code, whatever SAP, maybe if something was not right, they would overwrite it and they would fix things by themselves, they would get in their new own features and all of which cannot work in cloud. I mean, as cloud customers, I mean, they are completely dependent on what we as software vendors provide to them. And that is where for them it is a key, it is a must have, it is something that is by default that they need to have the perfect quality which they would really, through which they can run their businesses. So I would say that was for the people part of transformation. Coming to the process part, so again, this is what I'll talk about now is something which is was not there from day one. It is not something I would say that we were maybe smart enough or visionary enough to really see the importance of having a process as soon as we move to cloud. No, but over the years, as a part of our journey, we realized that the normal processes, the way things used to run in the past, will no longer work. Why? Because in the past, the kind of importance that was there for quality or for testing or for other things will no longer work in this new world. So that is where what we try to do, and again, it's an evolved thing over the last couple of years, I would say. So we were able to establish a quality methodology. The idea is to deliver the cloud services faster, to customer satisfaction, and for low TCO for SAP. So how do we achieve this? What do we do about this? So what we try to do is to have strong customer focus. So we take inputs from different things from customers. So one is about from the issues that we get, from the messages that we get. What we very diligently do is a root cause analysis. So I think it's a process, it's a lengthy process, but I think it's really giving us the results as well. So anything that kind of comes up, a detailed root cause analysis needs to be done. Why this failed, what is it that we can do so that it does not fail going ahead. Yeah. Then I think one of the big advantages that we see for being in cloud is the fact that there is this cloud reporting available. So in the past, I mean, when we were working on premise, I think we used to maybe do a lot of guesswork, or through different means we try to find out what are the topics, which are the applications, which are the areas where customers are typically maybe using these things more. Now we have something like cloud reporting which can give us data immediately. It can tell us like which app was run how many times, which actions were done in which way. And I think this is again an area which will evolve going ahead, but right now I think this is something which helps us. And of course, I mean, to upgrade the safeguarding. So these are the inputs that we take from customer focus. There is a lot of internal focus which is there. So we have the best practice planning, we have quality engineering, and we have some sessions. So combining both these things, what we have, and I think which is, I don't think it's very usual in a lot of companies, but we derive backlogs out of this. So like we have development backlogs, like we have backlogs that we need to kind of do this for customers in this way. We have quality backlogs where we have some X% capacity which is kept aside. X% I say because it could keep changing across quarters, and that capacity has to be utilized specifically for the backlogs related to quality. So those backlogs could be anything. It could be about systems, it could be about some different processes where things are not working. It could be about the way of testing. It could be about customer-like testing. It could be different things. I mean, and every quarter we would have, I mean, different backlogs, different priorities. But that's the kind of, I mean, focus from our side for this topic. And I mean, if you see this, I think it's because of the, it looks a little odd, but it was actually a triangle. And so there are 3 parts to this, and all the 3 have again an equal stake. It starts at the bottom where each of the teams, or what we have scrum teams, need to take care of this, where quality has to be the first goal for them. Automation is something without which things cannot really scale, and regressions we try to avoid at the scrum teams level itself. That kind of then, I mean, moves up to the LOB level, where all these scrum teams together we need to kind of keep into picture, where I mean we have reports, we do prioritization based on customer usage, and we find health checks and retrospections to see whether things are being done in the right way, in the best way. Finally, at the organization level, and that's where my unit also kind of comes into picture, because so I mean my unit, I mean which we call ourselves as S4HANA Test Engineering Team, is somewhere I mean sits centrally or on top of the LOBs as well, where whatever comes from LOBs then finally goes through us as well. And I think that's again an interesting discussion to have, or from my thought process also, I think it's changed or evolved across time, whether it makes sense to have quality or testing as an integrated part of the development team, or should it be a separate unit. And I think there are pros and cons both ways, but I would say in this world of quality and testing, where it is getting more and more paramount, I think having a separate team is also working well. So that's that team, or at the organization level, we are doing the incident and usage analysis, which we do in retrospectives across the tucks as well, and that's where we kind of have all this in place. Now coming a little bit about the breadth and the depth of test coverage that we do. So I mean, if I show you this, I will again not get into details of this, but then maybe relating it to that pyramid which we have on the left side. So we, of course, all of us, I'm sure all of you as well, I mean, start with that static code checks. Then we move to unit tests. Unit test is again becoming more and more important. And one more thing that I would like to say is that quality to an extent is also, or should also be, KPI driven. I would say that it need not be 100% KPI driven, but then if there are some KPIs defined, I think it gives a kind of a direction, it gives a kind of a messaging for the people in the development teams as well, that this is important, and if you don't do this, then there could be a problem. So for even for us, I think there are KPIs for each of these phases. So like unit test, all the programs or all the classes should have unit test. Integration tests, I think again, really important, where I mean, we have a tool which kind of automates scenarios and helps with the integration tests. Then we move to scenario or process testing, which again, I mean, everything kind of coming together. So even if applications work standalone, whether when they come together as different steps, as best practices, as some scenarios, I mean, how well they work is also needed to be tested. And then we have two interesting tests. I'm not sure again which is something which is there in different organizations or not, but we have a couple of upgrade tests. So pre-upgrade test and post-upgrade tests. I will cover the post-upgrade test. Maybe I'll cover pre also along with that in a forthcoming slide. But I think that's something which makes us unique. And as you see, I mean, in terms of the figure here as well. So I mean, if you see, I mean, the test have a certain way to kind of proceed, but then it is not really a waterfall model. I think different phases we do different kind of testing, and the testing continues across different phases as well. Coming to something again which the product which is come out of my organization. So again, I take a lot of pride in this. So it's an in-house tool. I mean, the name of the tool is START, and which is really helping customers and internally all of us for the topic of test automation. So if I just maybe talk in briefly about it, so I think it's one of the only tools available in anywhere, I mean, because we have done a lot of research and analysis for that as well. So which can look into multi-dimensional tests. So I mean, the same scripts can be used for testing the functional part, the process part, the performance part, and the language part. I think that's something which is unique. I think it's the tool which is completely deployed on cloud, I think, which also makes it special. I think there are multiple approaches for achieving automation. So as you see, I mean, we can record, we can write custom code, we can do keyword things as well. We have intelligent automated executions and a lot of analytics as well. So I think the kind of the role that this tool is kind of playing for this the topic of automation is something which I would say that how much ever the credit is given for that is not be enough, because I think that's really playing a big role for us. And as I said, the same tool is also available for the customers for their testing. So I mean, what we do is we deliver the customers some standard best practice scenarios, some templates which they can use. But then they can also create their own, I mean, they can copy those and maybe use it in different ways, or they can create their own automates as well. The idea is that the execution can happen in background, it can be scheduled, so you need not really, I mean, sit and kind of do that. There is an option of data variants, so I think for the same kind of scripts with different variants, you can run it in different ways, which is of course something which is really helpful. And again, post-upgrade test, which I will talk about in the next slide. If I just look at maybe some of the numbers, I think you will realize the enormity of it. So already, I mean, this tool is available for the customers, I would say, in the last maybe productive use the last couple of 2 or 3 quarters. We already have 100,000 executions which have been done by the customers. For our internal usage for the developers all across SAP, or I mean what they're working on, we already have 4 million executions which have been done on this tool. And by execution, what I mean is not one step. Execution means the number of times the app has been opened, I mean the app that we have for this tool. And we already have 70,000 executions for the upgrade test. Now upgrade, I think I've been talking about it for some time, but I think it would really come under innovation, because that's something which is special, that what we do. So being in cloud, as you know, I mean the upgrades is something which is not a choice for customers, and it need not be pushed like forever, it needs to be done every quarter. And with this, we also realize that the customers are a little uneasy with the upgrades that happen every quarter. I mean, whether everything will work fine, whether things will probably stop working when the upgrade happens, and things like that. So that's where I would say maybe last year we kind of started working on this concept of something called as post-upgrade test. The idea was that we give we have standard test automates, which are probably which we kind of create, which we think are the most important processes for the customers to really test, which most of the customers are using. So we have those standard test automates, and with those automates we get the data picking logic, auto test plan creation, and then what we do is that for each upgrade in the queue systems of the customers, in their tenants, with their own data, we create their test plans and the execution is done for all those automates. I think that is something which for the customers has been really a comforting factor, because they can get to know, I mean, what are the test results that come out of it. There is a dashboard which they can see. Also at this point of time, we are also helping them with the analysis. So we are kind of telling them that, okay, I mean, most of the things are fine. If a couple of things are not working, then we ourselves create incidents on their behalf and tell the development teams, so that before, I mean, the upgrade happens in the P systems, we are trying to kind of resolve all problems, so that, I mean, the production system kind of runs as smoothly as possible. So that's I would say a kind of a innovation which really is something which is comforting to the customers. For them to really feel that it's not really nothing really will go wrong with the upgrade. And I think that we are, again, I mean, for us also, we are in the journey of evolution. So we are also evolving in this, and what we are trying to go next is that the customers are able to run the post-upgrade test by themselves. So that's the journey that we are kind of working on. Coming a little bit to the topic of what all or what more that we can do in the direction of testing and quality and what we are doing. So I mean, we have a mission in place. I'm running a little out of time, so I will possibly skip a couple of things, but I think I really want to talk about these 3-4 things and give you a little bit more details on this. So this is something, I mean, that as a team we kind of really sat and thought about that what is it that we should do to make things worthwhile for us as well as for the customers. So I mean, this is what we kind of came up with. So starting with dynamic scoping, so as we all know, I mean that in terms of testing, in terms of really looking at things, there is never an end to things. Yeah, I mean, we can test as much and still it might not be enough. So what would be a smart thing to do is to really understand what is it that we should probably focus on or prioritize. And that is something which is the scope, and that scope is something which can keep changing. I mean, in this world, I mean, it will not be static. It's not that once you define, it will kind of continue to work. And I think that's what we are trying to do through dynamic scoping. So we are using different parameters, things like the customer usage of those apps, things like the number of incidents which are coming from certain areas, and things like which are the objects which are being changed in SAP system itself. So using these 3 things, we have algorithms in place. We are trying to create the dynamic scoping every quarter on quarter. So that's something that we are working on, so that we at least ensure that whatever is the critical thing, whatever is being used by all customers, or most of them, is something which is really tested. Then coming to the topic of automate the automates, again, I think it is something which is becoming more and more critical. Why? Because as you know, I mean, we have a lot of automated scripts, and which release on release need to be adapted. Why? Because some things have changed here and there. I mean, there are tags which have changed, and it's a big pain for the testers, it's a big pain for the customers, it's a big pain for everyone concerned. So what we are trying to work is on the topic that can we create automates at runtime, so that, I mean, it does not need to be adapted, and we are using machine learning, we are using natural language processing for this. So there are a couple of ways that we are trying to achieve this. The progress so far has been good, but I would still say that it is work in progress, and I am sure that soon enough, I think the concept, the POCs and everything is ready, and we are trying to kind of come up with a final solution for this. Coming to the topic of smart execution, so again, I mean, the idea is to automate as many things as possible, and once we have the scope, once we have the automates, the smart execution means that everything is kind of again executed automatically without really much human intervention. I mean, the analysis is also done, and what we are also trying to achieve is that the incident creation and everything is automated. So that is where I think it would help the customers, it will help us to kind of focus on different things. Finally, directional reporting. So at this point of time, and I'm sure with all of you as well, there are hundreds of reports available for everything that we have. But then, can we give kind of a reporting to customers or to end users where we give them a direction, where we give them an analysis, where we tell them that this is what they are looking for, this is what they should go for. We use predictive analysis, we use, again, I mean, machine learning here as well, and we try to help them achieve what they want to achieve, and not just give them, I mean, bulk of, okay, these are all the things which are available for you, you see how you want to use them. So also I would say the impetus is not only on functional test. I think one of the big focus area for us as well is also the performance test, and I think that's where we are leveraging machine learning and AI for solutions. We are looking into areas of load testing and, I mean, different issues of performance as well, because again, I mean, in the cloud world, performance is something again which is extremely important for the customers. So finally, I think just to maybe summarize the whole thing, I've talked about the cloud culture, we've talked about the process part, we've talked about the product part, and we have talked also about the different ways in which we are doing things. So that's all there for all of you to see, but I would like to end it with maybe some of the learnings that we have had on the way, so that that's something which can probably help all of you as well. So first thing, and I would say one of the most important thing, I mention it as well, but that mindset change from on-prem to cloud is something which is very, very, very difficult. Yeah, and how much ever you talk about it, how much ever workshops that you have, I mean, that to really for people to kind of get it in their heads takes time. And I think that's also one of the reasons why a lot of organizations are moving towards more maybe early talents or younger people, because for them, they do not need to unlearn things. But I think that's also a message for all of us in the room here, and I think we've been there or in this topic for, I mean, many years. I think if we do not really move with times or unlearn things and get into this new world fast enough, then there are a lot of others who are ready to kind of maybe step in. Yeah, so I think that mindset change is very, very important. Again, in cloud, I think what is important is to achieve the scale, and to achieve the scale, the only way to achieve the scale is through automation. So I think automation, I mean, you would have read automation is a friend. I would say automation would be our best friend in this journey, because without that, there is no way that we can achieve the kind of scale that we need to achieve. Again, I think I've mentioned it, but I think again to talk about inward focus. So for all the software providers, for all the companies, I think if we do not have the inward focus of quality first, it will not work. So in this cloud world, in this journey, I think that's something which is extremely, extremely important. Again, doing, and I think it's important, only the right things, because there are so many right things to do, and you have to then pick and choose what is it that is probably the best thing to be done, and that should completely be driven by understanding the customer usage and the requirements. Because I mean, if we keep doing things or trying to do everything, it will not work. So the idea is that can we really get to know, I mean, through the tools that we have, through different discussions. So I think like for example, we get a lot into I mean, design thinking workshops with customers. We do a lot of co-innovation projects with customers. We have pilot customers for a lot of our topics, just to kind of get into their heads and understand what they are really wanting. And I think one of the, again, the key things for cloud is that how is it, or how can we try to really have a regression-free software that we kind of deliver. And that can happen, I mean, by understanding the customer expectations. With all those upgrades that happen, which they do not have any control of, I think regression-free software is something which they have to have. I think it's their right, and I think that's what they demand. And finally, I would say that, and not every customer knows what they want, or I mean, there are times when customers themselves do not really know what they want. So we as maybe thought leaders, we as maybe industry champions, or we as people with that kind of experience should use this thought leadership to really influence what the customers might need or want. So it is not only about listening to them and giving them what they want, but can we probably even go beyond and guess what would really work and work towards that. I mean, I would say things like the post-upgrade test, which I talked about, could fall in this line. So with this, I mean, I think I'm a little out of time. I would like to end this, and yeah, thank you so much for being a patient audience, and yeah, thank you.